Tonight on the docket, the gloves are off as the Republicans took their first swings for the chance to face off against President Obama in 2012. Last night in Greenville, South Carolina, the Republicans held the first presidential primary debate. And only two of the candidates announced their intention to lead a government that stays within the confines of the Constitution. Only two of the candidates there made a commitment to end all of America's violent, illegal, and costly wars. Only two of the candidates there believe that you, and not the government, own your body. And only two of the candidates there would not let the federal government borrow another dime, period. And so far, these two candidates, former New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson and Texas Congressman Ron Paul, are getting much of the attention over the rest of the old line establishment field that was there last night. Here now is one of those two candidates. He's been the staunchest defender of personal freedom in the Congress for a generation, Texas Republican Congressman Ron Paul. Congressman Paul, I don't know how you got from South Carolina to Texas so quickly, but welcome here. Congratulations on last night.
Well, thank you, Judge.
Were you surprised to wake up this morning and see this CNN poll revealing that you were the only candidate of the five there last night within striking distance of the president?
Sometimes I read that news, and it does rather surprise me. You know, what is surprising and sometimes a little scary is how far along our freedom movement is going. You know, I've always, labored in the vineyards, and I was accustomed to going slowly and tediously and planning for the next generation. But I think the next generation is here. With your efforts and so many others, I think the mainstream's moving toward us. I think the mainstream is starting to talk about the important things. So yes, I was very surprised but very pleased that so many have joined us in the freedom movement.
Well, I guess that was manifested last night by seeing two staunch, unabashed libertarians among the five. Now, there were others who were not there. Governor Huckabee will be on right before you, and I'll ask him, of course, where he was. But among the five that were there, two of you are unabashed libertarians, and when you and Governor Johnson referred to things like you own your own body, and just because drugs are lawful doesn't mean everybody's going to take them, you produced the largest applause and laughter line of the night in the most arguably conservative state in the union. Has that surprised you?
Yeah, it sure did. And, you know, sometimes, if you think long and tediously about answers, they might be more complicated because you're trying to be cautious, but sometimes these blurting out the truth even surprises the person that does it. So when it came with this issue of drugs, and we frequently talk about drugs and we use this example, well, if drugs were legal, you talk to the drug warriors, say, if drugs were legal, would you use them? Oh, no, I wouldn't use them. Well, why do you think anybody else would? When I did that, that just seemed to have tremendous appeal. That really surprised me, but I thought that was the real answer. And of course, in our history, drugs were legal at one time, and it's only been in recent years that we've been bogged down in this war on drugs, hundreds of billions of dollars. And I just think that the momentum is moving in our direction on that. And when you're working in the personal liberty, of course, everybody knows that the last thing in the world would be that I'm interested in using drugs, because I abhor the drug usage as well as prescription drugs. But it gives me the point, they gave me the opportunity to make the point that religious freedom is one thing, but it's the same thing as personal liberty on how you want to run your life.
All right, let's talk about foreign policy for a moment, Congressman Paul. In the last 2 days, you, along with at least one Democrat and a couple of other Republicans, have introduced legislation in the House of Representatives to terminate, not overnight, but in a militarily prudent way, our presence in Afghanistan, arguing, as you have, that with Osama bin Laden dead, with virtually no al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, the purpose of our going there 10 years ago has been served, and there's no purpose in staying. I think that argument is going to resonate with Republicans and with Democrats. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, and I think it's a lot easier, Judge. When Clinton was pursuing some of these adventures, Republicans objected. But when Bush did it, they didn't object. Now we're going to get more Republicans objecting to Obama. So I think it's just great that this is happening. And the resolution that we introduced, actually, it was very well planned. And Jim McGovern and Walter Jones deserves a lot of credit on this. They managed to get, I believe, 7 Democrats and 7 Republicans to make it a bipartisan. Getting the Republicans was more difficult than getting the Democrats, and we will get a lot more Democrats and more Republicans. But it came, really, we had been planning this for weeks, a long time before bin Laden was killed. But it really fit into our schedule just perfectly, saying, hey, declare victory and come home. And I think a lot of Americans are thinking that way, because before bin Laden was killed, 70% of the Americans were saying enough is enough. Let's get out of Afghanistan.
Congressman, before I let you go, what's the most important issue in this campaign to Ron Paul as you seek the Republican nomination and as you, if you get the nomination, seek the presidency?
The goal that I've always had in my political activity is for the preservation of liberty, and always pointing out that foreign policy, war is the health of the state. You undermine liberties. When you believe in economic interventionism, you undermine personal liberties. And this idea that government can mold behavior, undermine personal liberties, that is my goal. It's a freedom philosophy.
Got it. Congressman Ron Paul from Texas, thank you very much for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Many believe the next GOP presidential debate will